Welcome to Selfless Love, Part 2. If you remember, this started with a video on loving yourself, and then that became also another Theology Quip Notes video on selfless love. But we didn't really finish the topic of selfless love. We got a good beginning, we got a good starting point, but there was more that could be said. And so this second video on selfless love is a follow-up. Now, the first video on selfless love, it stands on its own. If you want to watch that and only that, then you're good. But if you want to watch the second video, this video, then I strongly recommend that you go back and watch the other one first. And I think that our second discussion on selfless love will begin best with a quote from the Second Vatican Council. Building off of the biblical idea of loving our neighbor as ourself, the Second Vatican Council says, everyone must consider his every neighbor without exception as another self. This comes from Gaudium et Spes, paragraph 27. Notice the shift that this rephrasing of the second greatest commandment places on the self. If I can rephrase this rephrasing in my own words, it doesn't say, love your neighbor as yourself. It says, love your neighbor as another self. Your neighbors are individuals. They're not you. Do not confuse your neighbor as yourself. If you start taking responsibility for your neighbor or letting your neighbor take responsibility for you, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. Enabling another or allowing them to enable you does not do justice to loving either of you. That's giving us a clue of where to go, but how do we get there? It's a rather lofty goal, and it's hard to talk about. How do we hone our understanding of our needs such that we keep only what we need and give away all that we do not need? Such that we balance out between giving away too much and being greedy and giving away too little. Remember the idea of fulfillment. The more you are fulfilled, the more you can actually let go of yourself without the risk of being violated. If you have found a way to be complete with simplicity, you will more easily be able to love yourself and still have leftover energy to love others. If you are already so completely fulfilled, you can forget about yourself and just be there for others. In this state, you are not attached to anything, and so there's nothing to keep you from finding unity with everything and everyone. And in such a state of unity with everything, your self becomes equal in value to every other self. And so when you're in that state, to give to another is the same as giving to yourself. Now, I do realize I'm setting the bar rather high here. I'm not telling you how you're probably going to be right now, but I'm showing you what can be as you develop into it. This is probably not a short-term goal. This is probably more of a long-term goal. Once you see this for yourself, it does make sense. I've had visions of this set before my eyes only very rarely, but on the rare occasions when I have seen it, it has marked me. These are lessons that I can't forget. Even though I'm not able to live this way on a daily basis, not yet anyway, I know the goal that is set before me. Some of you have seen this too. You know what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, I suggest that you seek a deeper relationship with God and that you seek to see Him in all aspects of His creation. But it's not enough simply to see this vision. The key truly is personal fulfillment. And so how do we look for that beyond a deeper relationship with God and trying to see God in all of His creation? I believe, and I've mentioned this earlier in this same video, I believe the way to do that is by finding fulfillment increasingly with less. In other words, Those excesses that we were hoarding to ourselves so that we would be fulfilled earlier, little by little, we find that we don't need that much. As time goes on, one hones one's needs and one's abilities to fulfill them, becoming more efficient, to the point that one's needs end up being quite few. I wish I could be more specific, but this is beyond my experience. It makes sense to me, but I'm not yet in a place where I can actually live it. The vision is set before me, but at this time it's out of my reach. Again, I can only offer a hint at this time. But that hint is something that I have spoken about before. Last Monday, in my talk on living in the present, I talked about it. You can go back and watch it again. It's on the St. Luke Facebook page. But I'll give you a quick summary right here. We tend to eat food that is flavored with sugar, fat, and salt. If one wants to eat healthier, one can eliminate added sugar, unhealthy fats, and much salt. But if you do that all at once, your food's going to taste like cardboard. You have to ease your way into it, little by little, removing some of the sugar and some of the fat and some of the salt. And when you do that, you're going to find that your food has flavor by itself. You didn't need to add that flavor. There's a richness to the food that is only perceptible if you take out the distractions of the sugar and the salt and the fat. Well, it's like that with life, too. If you gradually cut out the excess entertainment, the excess sex, the excess gossiping, you will find that life has a richness all of its own that you just never noticed before. But like with food, you can't just do this. If you try, life is just going to be so dull and boring. I mean, why even bother? But if you ease your way into it gradually, you'll start noticing the richness and appreciating it little by little as you diminish the things that are polluting your life. It's not that these things shouldn't be in your life. It's just having them in there in excessive amounts makes it difficult to appreciate life on a more basic level. And as with food, you need a higher goal. It's not simply enough to say, oh, I want to eliminate these things. You have to say, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be more healthy. Well, in life, you don't do it simply because you need to eliminate these things. You do it because you're trying to develop a deeper relationship with God. The goal is not simply to be more austere. Taking these things out of your life gives you more time, ability, and energy to focus on God. The reason that I'm recommending that you eliminate some of the distractions in your life is not merely so that you can be closer to God. That would be a fine goal in and of itself. But our topic here is selfless love. And so when you're able to see in life those things which enliven life without being distracted by things that aren't really the point of life, once you're able to eliminate those distractions, then you can see more clearly into what a relationship with God is like. And having a close relationship with God is in and of itself very fulfilling. But beyond that, having a good relationship with yourself, having a good relationship with life is also very fulfilling. And so as we talk about these things that will bring you closer to God, they're bringing you closer to you also. That's really a very key component. Well, that brings us to the end here. That's all I have for you about selfless love. I'm sure there's more to be told, but you've exhausted what I know or what I might claim to know. We're all on this journey together. I'm sure there are people out there who are further along on the journey than me. So take this for what it's worth. This is the path that I'm working on, and hopefully it's something that you'll find works for you too. But I'm sure you'll follow your path. And if you find that something works better for you, well, let me know. I'd love to hear it. For Theology Quip Notes, this is Ray Hurdle at St. Luke. Have a blessed day.